India is celebrating its 70th Independence Day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi unfurled the national flag and addressed the nation from the ramparts of the Red Fort.
A day earlier, Pakistan celebrated its Independence Day with military pageantry and fireworks. Pakistan was founded when nearly 200 years of British colonial rule of India came to an end. Millions migrated based on their faith. At least 1 million died in ethnic fighting, and tension between the two countries continues to this day.
Well, for more on all of this, we're joined by Malika Kapoor in Amritsar, India, and Sophia Sefi in Islamabad, Pakistan. Thank you for joining us, ladies. Malika, to you first. This milestone anniversary is obviously being celebrated with the expected pomp and ceremony there in India, but amid the joy, this is also a time of some very painful memories.
It is a time for some very, very painful memories because remember, as you said, as we mark 70 years of independence, which of course is a moment of great pride for India, we are also marking another significant milestone. It is 70 years since partition. And as you mentioned earlier, you know, when we saw India in 1947 be carved into India and Pakistan, it led to about 12 to 15 million people rushing to cross the border. It is estimated to be one of the largest mass migrations in history, and 12 to 15 million people crossing the border. There was so much communal violence. It was a virtual bloodbath at that time. About 1 million people died in communal violence. 75,000 women and girls were abducted and raped. People had no warning. They had to leave their houses really quickly. They rushed, leaving their homes behind with very few belongings, just what they could carry. It was a really, really harrowing experience for people at that time. And 70 years later, people are now finally talking about partition. It's interesting. For so many decades, really, there was very little conversation about partition here in India. But this anniversary, people are talking about it, trying to get some sort of closure to some very old, painful wounds.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Malika, thank you. Sophia, to you now. Talk to us about how this anniversary has been marked in Pakistan and how people there are remembering the partition, the independence that came 70 years ago.
Well, Aisha, you know, there's been the usual pomp and ceremony. There were air shows across the skies for all the major cities by the Pakistani Air Force. There were flags hoisted, lights, fireworks, buntings, the works. But of course, like Malika said, it's also a time of reflection. It's also a time of looking back. And this generation has been silenced for a very, very long time. And it's been a time where people have spoken to their grandchildren, to their children, spoken about memories that had been repressed for a very long time. As part of CNN's coverage, we spoke to somebody as well. I mean, I went and I spoke to somebody whose mother was killed while she still held him in her arms. And this was 70 years ago. Now, this old man, he's quite positive about dialogue with India and Pakistan, and he says that they should look ahead. And although relations between the two countries have been continuously hostile and frosty, there is a desire on the ground for better relations between the two countries.